I was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. I was born in 1940, born during the war.
So what was it like growing up in Europe in World War II? How many horses did you have?
30.
30 horses?
Crazy, isn't it? Some of our horses were sold some to Venezuela and to Saudi, and I think some went to Qatar too in the Middle East. So,
walk us through what it was like to lose your husband.
You know, people put things off to tomorrow, and tomorrow may not come. And so I try to live every single day. I think about that when I wake up in the morning. Make this day count, you know.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the CCTri Podcast. We are so happy that you are back and joining us today. And I am so excited today to have a very special guest with us, Miss Maureen. I have known you for not too long, a couple years, but
2 years, yes.
2 years. You got connected with my parents.
Yes.
And it's a special place. My dad loved coming here and seeing your horses.
Yes.
Before he passed away, that was a special thing for him. And we had family pictures taken on your gorgeous horse farm. So I know bits and pieces of your story, but I'm left wanting more. So you have a very intriguing story, and I'm excited to get to share that today. So Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. And I'd just like to start off by asking you, how did you make your way and find your way to Celebration Church?
Well, my husband died 11 years ago, and we were members of the Presbyterian Church in Colonial Heights. And my friends in my garden club group said, come and go to church with us, because they knew I needed that support. And so I started going to their church, and they stopped having choir. So singing in the worship service is a very important ingredient in my worshiping the Lord. And so I was driving by Celebration. I just lived 2 miles from Celebration, and I was driving by, and I thought, I need to go to this church. And so that Sunday I went in the door, and I never looked back. The congregation were so thoughtful and kind, and I knew I had found my home with the Lord there. Mm-hmm. So I joined the choir, and I connected with a Bible study group, and I got to know those small groups of people because it's a very large church. Mm-hmm. And I have been there for 2 years, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey with the Lord there.
Mm-hmm. I love how you said that you got connected with the choir and with small groups, because it is a big church. I think it's such a important way to get connected when you are in a church of our size, is to be intentional about finding community. So,
and Celebration Church, I think, lives up to its name. It's a celebration every time I walk in there. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. Well, we love that you are part of our church.
Thank you.
Added a lot.
Thank you.
So I'd like to go back to the very beginning of your life.
Oh, my goodness.
Because you were not born in America.
No.
You're a European.
Yes.
So, where were you born?
I was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. Edinburgh is the capital city of Scotland, and Scotland is a very small country, about the size of South Carolina state. And I grew up there and met my husband, military, and he brought me to America.
Mm-hmm. So what was it like growing up in Scotland? Did you have siblings?
I have 2 brothers. One was 2 years older than I. He joined the Royal Air Force when he was like 16 years old. So, and then I had a younger brother who was 12 years younger than I, which was an interesting experience. My mother suffered from asthma, and she had a hard time after she had my brother, and so I was basically his stand-in mom for him. Wow. And he went everywhere with me. So I I was educated in Scotland. I went to a small college called McAdams College for Young Ladies. That gives you an idea.
So if you don't mind me asking, what year were you born?
I was born in 1940, born during the war.
Oh, wow.
Yes, my father was, as I say, in the RAF, and he went to war. And all my uncles went to war, too, and fought. And my father was an officer in the RAF, and he was stationed in England. But my two uncles that I knew well, they were stationed abroad. One of them, actually, I didn't know this until after that generation was gone, that he was an aide to General Montgomery.
Oh, wow.
The British commander in wartime. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up in Europe in World War II? Like, I'm sure at some point you became aware, but it's also all you knew at that point.
I think I'm aware of things that were happening around me probably about 4 years old. And I remember, the German planes flew over Edinburgh from Germany to bomb Glasgow, which was 45 miles further. That would be east of Edinburgh. They went to bomb the shipbuilding area there and all the industry there, because Edinburgh was a cultural center and Glasgow was building ships and commercial businesses. So they were focused on Glasgow. So it spared us from some of it. But I can remember being in my grandmother's home, and the siren would go off, and we'd have to pull the big black curtains over the windows so that the pilots couldn't see any light underneath. And we took in, because my grandmother had a large home there, and we took in servicemen because they didn't have enough barracks for them. So it's an interesting experience. And looking back, I remember one of the soldiers, or the Air Force, he used to take me walks in a buggy. I remember, a little stroller thing. And his name was Abe. And I think back as an adult, and he probably was of Jewish heritage. And I often wondered how he felt about the whole thing. So, and when I was growing up, food was rationed till 1953, so that food was always an issue with us too. And we didn't have a lot, but we survived it all.
Do you remember when the war ended?
That would be in 1945. I was just 5 years old, not even 5. I don't really remember. I remember, I don't think this was in honor of the war ending, but I remember as a youngster, I think it was the coronation of the Queen. we had every street had a celebration party. We had food on a long table, and we all sat, and we were issued little souvenir mugs for the Queen's coronation. But the war, I don't really have any real recollection of the war ending. So we didn't have TV, of course, in those days. So you didn't have a running account of what was going on elsewhere. So but food was an issue. We started school when we were 5 years old, and I can't believe that I did this. I don't know if parents would allow their children to do this now, but my brother, who was 2 years older than I, we would walk to the bus stop, get on, public transportation, and it would take us into the middle of Edinburgh. We'd have to get out of that bus and walk down the hill in the middle of old Edinburgh there and get on a tram car to take us the rest of the journey. So I grew up in the Catholic faith, and so I went to Holy Cross Academy back in those days. So it was an interesting experience, very strict. The teachers wore the black gowns in the classroom. So it was much different from schools in America here. And studied languages, studied Latin and French, and we had all the other subjects too, including for the girls homemaking stuff. And the boys took shop, but we did every subject you can think of. I think we did. So of consequence, So it was. I had a good experience in school. I liked school, enjoyed it, and I hope my children enjoyed school as much as I enjoyed school. But I don't remember the war ending. And so when I was 13, I got a job after school and on the weekends working in a ice cream cafe.
It's like a dream job for me.
Yeah. And the owners were Italiano, and it was very interesting.
Did they speak English?
They spoke English, but they were Italian. But when they were mad at each other, or excited, they would start speaking Italian. So I had no idea what they were saying. But yeah, I had an interesting youth. I don't regret any of it. I think everything I did added something to my experience of life. So,
are both your brothers still around?
They're still living.
Still
yes,
in Scotland?
One lives in Wales, and one lives in Kirkcaldy, Scotland. Still, he joined. As I say, he joined the RAF when he was 16. So he retired from, and in his retirement, he's a golfer, and he lives near St. Andrews, and he mows golf. What do they call
greens?
Greens, yes, golf greens.
Oh, cool! That is such a cool retirement job.
And his wife, she's a golfer too, and she's secretary of one of those clubs up there. So they're into the golf thing. So,
So I'm curious. I know, like, food with rations and stuff was an issue, but not during that period. What type of food do you guys eat in Scotland?
Well, I can tell you two foods that I never tasted till I came to America, which are very common here, was chicken and corn.
Wow. Never
ate that. We ate a lot of porridge. That was mainly our breakfast, porridge, oatmeal. And we ate a lot of fish because we lived right at the North Sea there. And so we had a lady in a van that had fish on ice that would come around 2 times a week, I think. And that was caught that morning, I guess. And so we had a lot of fresh fish. It's good. A lot of fish, not much meat. We didn't eat much meat. And when my father got out of, when the war ended, he grew a garden, and he grew a lot of vegetables and fruits. And he had the whole summer to do that because he taught physics and chemistry in Edinburgh. So he had a lot of time to spend making us food because we needed it. We really did. Food was an issue growing up. Never, ever remember feeling really hungry, but we didn't have a lot of it. And my father was the only one, when we had meat, he was the only one that got the meat. So, because he was a worker. So, yeah, it was an interesting time as far as food. And even, it made such an impression on me that today I just can't throw away food. I feel like I've got to eat everything because it's such a valuable commodity, Yeah,
it was a marketing experience for sure.
Yeah. So food, and we didn't have a car, of course. We didn't have a TV. We didn't have a telephone. I don't know how people communicated back in those days. But my father finally gave in, and we got a TV when I was 17 years old. So we listened to the radio. That was how we knew what was happening in the world, We listened to the radio. So there were lots of good radio programs, and we had a little fireplace, coal fire, of course, and we would huddle around that fire and listen to the radio, and that was our entertainment growing up. So, but I got a job when I was in school and earned money so I could buy the things I wanted to buy, and enjoyed after my cafe experience, I got a job in a big store, kind of like Macy's store, and I worked in the flower department, which was a natural for me because my father had taught me so much about flowers and plants. So that was a great experience too. So nothing really out of the ordinary in my life. It's pretty calm.
When you went to college or university, whatever you call it, what did you study?
Well, I studied languages, of course, French and Latin. And my father wanted me to learn how to type and take shorthand too. So I did that. He, as an educator, he taught at Napier University in Edinburgh. And he had taken shorthand and typing along with chemistry and physics and all that stuff. So I did. I took a lot of the courses that would be of use, of value, no matter where you went in life. So, but it was for young ladies, so we were very sedate and hopefully well behaved.
So after school, what happened next? At what point did you meet your husband? Did you get a job?
I did. I worked. I got a job with the civil service, which in those days was a really good job to get. And it was not far from my home. And so I rode my bicycle to work every day because I didn't have a car. And to get there I would have had to take a bus into Edinburgh and then come back out to where that was located. So yes, I drove my bicycle back and forth to work and enjoyed that experience. I actually got to work in the area where they had veterinarians. So I was introduced to...
A little foreshadowing.
Yes, livestock. They treated livestock. And so that was a great experience. I enjoyed it a lot. And let's see, after that... Yes, I worked there for a while until I met my husband, and then he brought me to America.
So how did you meet him?
He was in the military, and I can't remember exactly where we met. I think it might have been the bowling alley. I'm not sure, but I met him, and he brought me to America, which was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
So did you guys get married in Scotland, or
Yes.
how long were you guys together before you got married?
You know what? It's been so long ago. I can't remember how long we dated, but we dated and then got married, and then he brought me to America, to South Carolina, which I came to South Carolina to his parents' home, of course, and it was so hot there in January, mind you. And I couldn't bear to put shoes on my feet. I walk around with bare feet because it was so hot. But eventually, we moved on and found our own place. And he got a civilian job, and we moved on. So,
what did your family support you marrying an American?
Yes. I've got pictures of somewhere. Of the wedding, of the ceremony. We got married at the base. So, and military were all the people there, mainly. It was a real good experience. I've had bumps, I've had mountains and I've had valleys in my life, and some of them have been really tough. But I think it's made me a stronger person. And the Lord helped me through all of it.
Were you excited to move to America? Was that kind of like I like this man, but he's American?
No, I was very excited about it. I was very excited about it. And as I say, when I got over to America, it was so hot compared to Scotland, because it's a cool country, and it just felt unbearably hot in January. And it was dreadful in August.
Oh, I'm sure.
But they had air conditioning, so that made everything a lot easier. But because nothing in Scotland is air conditioned.
It is so weird for me to still go to Europe in today. And there's a lot of places that don't have air conditioning or
No.
don't have heating
Don't have-
in Europe. And I'm like, why is this just an American thing to have heating and air conditioning in every single house?
Well, the Scottish people, I'm actually reading a book right now about how the Scots invented the modern world. And there were so many great inventors that Scotland produced. And we had a little coal fire in our living room, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was time to go to bed, I remember when I was young, my mother would put a hot water bottle in my bed, and that was nice. But it was cold over there, lots of snow. Well, it didn't get quite as cold as it gets here in Tennessee. I mean, it would get cold enough to snow, but it wouldn't get to like 0 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
It would stay just cold enough for the snow to be on the ground.
So have you gone back to Scotland at all since you moved to America?
I used to go when we had enough money, extra money. I used to go every year when my parents were still with us. And my mother died in 2006, I believe, and I haven't been there since. But I'm planning to go this year.
That's exciting.
Well, certain things happened in my life. My husband, he got sick, and so I had to go through that. And then he passed, and so I had to kind of deal with that and grieve. And I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to go see. I want to walk through the heather, and I want to see the Highland cattle, and of course see my family. I've still got cousins and nieces and nephews and 2 brothers. So I'm anxious. To go. I'm planning to go this year. So.
Will any of your kids go with you?
Well, 2 of my children I have taken over to Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
We went over there. My daughter went over there when my mother and father were still alive, and then my son went over there. I can't remember when he went. So 2 of my 4 children have been over there. So the other 2 need to go. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Might be the year.
This might be the year, yes. I have hesitated to go to Scotland for many years because of all the crazy things that Europe has been going through. I just, they've had a lot of problems in Europe. They allowed migration into their country. And most of the migrants coming into Scotland were not Christians. And Scotland has long been a Christian nation. And so I think it's been hard for them to assimilate into the Scottish culture and traditions. And so I kind of was waiting till that got sorted out. I don't know. So, but I'm going. I'm going this year. I made up my mind. I'm going.
It's so exciting.
Yes, and walk down Princes Street, which is the main street in Edinburgh, and the castle's up on the rock above it. So I know it's changed, but hopefully that still looks like it used to.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes.
So when you came to America, you and your husband got your own house and place. Did you get a job in America? At what point? You have 4 kids. At what point did you have kids?
I was a stay-at-home mom. Mm-hmm. Yes, and the tradition of my generation.
You had the hardest job of all.
that was what women did in my generation. Mm-hmm. We stayed at home and took care of our families. And when my kids were I think they were in high school then, I did work for 2 years at the at kindergarten,
mm-hmm.
and I had time, I would be home before my children would I'd get out at 12, and they would come home at 4, when they 2:30, 3 o'clock. And so I enjoyed that. But then I finally had to give that up because my husband started breeding so many horses here that I had to take care of the horses. I couldn't do both,
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 children. Mm-hmm. We had 4 children, 2 girls and twin boys.
Twins.
That was challenging.
I have this romanticized desire to have twins. I can do nothing about the fact.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I want twins.
And they're identical. So they pull tricks on a lot of people. Yeah.
Did they ever trick you?
Yes. And the only way that the kids at school, when they got into high school, the only way their friends could tell who was who, one son wore the high top sneakers and the other wore the regular sneakers, you know. And that was how they identified.
Oh, wow.
Because they still look identical.
Wow.
And they both ended up working in Texas. So it's amazing that they landed in Texas and they both sound still the same and look the same.
Where did the twins fall in the lineup of your kids?
They were the youngest, yeah. And, you know, in those days, they did not have ultrasound. And so I didn't know till, it was actually 6 weeks before their time of, you know, their due date, my due date, and 3 weeks before they actually arrived, that my doctor said, "Oh, I think I hear two heartbeats in here." Sure enough, of course, as I say, they didn't have ultrasound, so there's no way to confirm that. But
I bet that was a shock.
It was a shock, yeah. They were, and you know, they were 3 weeks early, and they were big babies, and 4 minutes apart. So it was an interesting experience. Yes.
How old were your other two kids when you had them?
My oldest child was 6, and her younger sister was 4. So the 6-year-old was another little mama. So
yeah,
she helped.
Say old enough to help.
She did. And I didn't have a dryer when they were born. And so my 6-year-old daughter used to hang clothes out on the diapers that was before disposable diapers. She'd hang the diapers out on the clothesline for me. Aww. So my husband did finally buy me a clothes dryer, though, so that was awesome.
So at what point did you guys move to Tennessee?
Let's see, my husband worked, he worked in, I think it was Darren Milliken. That was during the polyester days, I think. And there was rumbles that they might not be moving forward. So he applied up here at Eastman, and they offered him a job. And so that brought us up here to Tennessee. And I love East Tennessee. It's the most beautiful place, yes. Mm-hmm. And Eastman was a great company to work for.
Mm-hmm. Did you have kids at that point when you moved here?
Let's see. Yeah, we had all 4 children when we moved here. So that was interesting, yes. And of course, we didn't live in our present home. We had to have a rental property, and it was challenging, but it all worked out, yeah. So so they, the 4 children, that was it, yeah.
At what point did horses enter the picture?
Immediately. My husband, as I say, was a chemical engineer, but horses were his passion. And every Sunday after church, we would go look for property for horses. And after a year of looking, we found our property. And then, of course, he had to build fences. He and the children built all the fences here for the horses. And they built the first barn that you come to. They built that too. So it's been a wonderful journey. It has. Horses and my family, we've had a wonderful journey with horses, yeah.
So what was the goal when it started out for him? Did he just want to own a horse? Did he want to ride a horse?
That's how it started. He just wanted to go trail riding and have a horse. And then he wanted to breed horses. And so, of course, we had to look for quality mare. And we started doing that. And, of course, we didn't have the knowledge that we accumulated later. So, you know, we hit trial and error, and we finally found us quality of mares to produce good foals. And we started showing them. And as I say, some of our horses were sold to Venezuela when it was a different country then, of course, and to Saudi. And I think some went to Qatar too in the Middle East. So it was an exciting journey to have horses. Yes.
So what was it like at the peak? Like, I know you mentioned, how many horses did you have?
30.
30 horses?
Crazy, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Not all of them are here. Some of them were with the trainer, and we would go. In fact, right now is when this is the first year I've not gone. I'm usually in Scottsdale, Arizona for the big Arabian horse show there.
Mhm.
And we used to go there, and we'd take our young horses there, the yearlings, and, as our quality of the horses improved, we'd usually sell them there so we didn't have to bring them home. And it didn't ever pay for our expenses. You can't. It's hard to make a lot of money on horses because it's so expensive. When you got to hire a trainer, but it was a wonderful family activity. Our
Mhm.
children, I think, it taught our children about life, birth, death,
Mhm.
illness. We had our share of losing horses. And I think it taught them responsibility, having to make sure they had the water they needed and the food and all the other things that go along with it. So it was a great family experience, I think.
Mhm. How often can a horse give birth?
Their gestation period is 11 months. So,
Wow.
yeah. So one a year at the most. Yeah.
And what's the point of okay, they've had enough kids, they shouldn't carry any more foals?
Well, they have their peak. I guess we bred our horses. We didn't want our mares to carry foal before they were 3 years old. We wouldn't breed them before they were 3 years old because Arabians mature slower than quarter horses or saddlebreds or other breeds, and so we would breed them until we figured. Well, they'd have to prove themselves. They'd have to produce a good enough foal, or we'd move on to another one. But yeah, we would usually have about four babies a year. That we felt that was enough for us. So we had 4 brood mares, and still got one of them. No, I still got 2 of them. And she produced national champion babies, and she is 32 years old now.
Wow. What's the average lifespan of a horse?
Probably teenage, yeah. But she's had the care she needed, and then the other one that we that produced babies for us, she is 20 years old.
Oh wow!
So I've got a 32-year-old and a 20-year-old, and then I got 2 geldings. So they're my family. Yeah, they really are. They give me a lot of comfort because I feel like I'm closer to my husband through my horses here when I go out and feed them. So it's been a very interesting journey in life. I never imagined that a city slicker would be able to go. And I learned. I took a course at Colorado State and on artificial insemination, and I used to breed the mares myself. So that was an interesting experience too. I felt like I was part of the production of that foal.
So how much could you sell one of these horses for when you had the state champions or national champions?
Well, like I say, we probably never made as much as we spent on them, but we did have one horse that was particularly good. He was a stallion, and he was a champion horse, and we sold him. He went somewhere in the Middle East, and we sold him for over $200,000.
Oh my God!
But now that's not the norm. Most of them, as I say, we didn't make any money off of our horses, but it was a family endeavor and brought a lot of joy and happy times for us.
It's a really special hobby.
Yes, so it was good, and let's see, all 4 of my children learned to ride. One of them didn't much care for it, so she dropped out of that. But 2 of my children still have horses.
Oh,
yeah. So they're carrying on that tradition, and as I say, it was a good life lesson for my children because everything is not going to go well in life. You got to deal with the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, and as you said, it probably instilled in them a great work ethic as well. Just It doesn't matter whether you're tired or not. That horse still has to be fed every day.
And when my kids were young teenagers, my boys, they were supposed to water the horses while we were. They must have been old enough. They must have been, because we left them to do that. And my husband and I went out with friends, I think, for dinner. And when we came back in, my husband stopped at the barn to check, and they had no water. And I'll never forget it. He came down to the house. He went upstairs and grabbed each one of them at the bed and says, "You get into that barn and put water in there." And I'm sure it taught them. It taught them how important the water was, or else, Mm-hmm. So they learned a lot of life's lessons. Mm-hmm. Raising horses and handling them and feeding them and grooming them and riding them. So,
mm-hmm. Did they ever compete?
They did. And one of my sons was undefeated. He showed, probably doesn't mean much to the average person, but we had a horse that was exceptional, and he was a park horse, which is high knee and hock action in the horse, lots of movement. And he was undefeated showing that horse.
Wow.
Yeah. And the other twin, he showed Western. And then one of my daughters showed Western too. So 3 of the 4. So cool. We had fun, and we go to the horse shows, and they'd have to work hard and have fun too. So, so it was a good life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that you grew up in a Catholic family.
I did.
At what point did your faith become your own? At what point did I assume you're not Catholic now?
I'm not Catholic. So my father was Catholic, and my mother was Episcopalian, and my mother never went to the Catholic Church, and that was her decision. I didn't question it. But he used to go to the 11 o'clock service, and I always took communion. So I had to go. They didn't give it I couldn't fast. In those days, you had to fast. And so I always went to the early service, and I walked down to church. It was a fair distance, but I walked because, I didn't drive a car. I walked down to church and back every Sunday, and I vowed when I got married that my family we were all going to the church together. And so my husband was Presbyterian, so I started out in the Presbyterian church. And it is so different from celebration. Mm-hmm. So different, different. I mean, good people and love God and worship God, but just very, very different. But I attended the Presbyterian church until he died. And then my friends, they says, "You need to come to church with us," So I did go to church with them and sang in their choir. And then they didn't have choir after COVID, And I said, "I got to have choir." And so I thought, I'm going to walk in this church here at Celebration. And as I say, I never turned back. It's been the most wonderful experience for me to be a part of Celebration Church. It truly is a celebration of the Lord. I mean, it's just people that have been going there forever, since they were little, probably don't even think about it, but it really impacted me. And so I've been going to that church since that moment I entered the doors there. And as I said, I joined a Bible study class too, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. It's a great church, great people, great pastor, great message, great faith. It's just a wonderful church. Yes, it's helped me deal with the things that I've had to deal with in life. Because I went through all those, And so it's been inspiring, and I mean that sincerely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Has God used horses to speak to you at all? Like, are there any spiritual life lessons that you
I have a
learned?
real connection, and sure, because I think God plays a role in everything in our lives, you know. And I, as I say, they're a great comfort to me. When I go up there, they connect me to my late husband, and my children were very involved in them. So I just love my horses. I don't do anything with them. They're just pasture ornaments, you know, but I love them and I feed them twice a day and take care of them. And they bring me, I think they do give me a sense of peace. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm here by myself. And so they are my family on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy my horses, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Walk us through what it was like to lose your husband.
you know that my husband and I, because we showed out at Scottsdale, Arizona every year in February, my husband was close to retirement age, so we bought a house out there, and we would go there. Our intention was that was probably maybe where we would retire, and so we were out in Scottsdale, Arizona. Actually, I had flown into Phoenix and I had gone to the house and was getting everything ready. Had invited a few friends, the trainer and friends that we had out there to dinner. And my husband was hauling two yearling fillies in the horse trailer, and from here, and he had somebody help so they didn't have to stop. You know, they would switch drivers. And he got there and he said, "I don't feel very well." And so, of course, we didn't have the party I had planned for him, but he just didn't feel well. And by Tuesday, I was really concerned about him. And I said, "We need to go to the hospital." And not too far from where we live was Mayo Clinic. And so I took him to Mayo Clinic. And the radiologist checked him, and he walked in. He didn't get on the wheelchair and all. And the radiologist told me, she says, "I can't believe he walked in by himself. He had a half of one lung that was functioning." So he had, you know, he had a lung problem, but we didn't realize. I think driving through Albuquerque, I think the altitude there is very high, and I think it got it started where he didn't have enough oxygen. And he had oxygen with him, but he was determined he didn't need oxygen. But we went into Mayo Clinic on Tuesday, and he died Thursday. So it was, but you know, I thank the Lord that he took him fast like that, because he was a go-getter. He would not have done well lingering. So I thank the Lord for doing that. Yes.
How old was he?
He was 73, which was young, you know, young in this time. And he had never had any health problems till this. But I'm sure, you know, he worked at Eastman, and they sent him over to China and India to look at some facilities there. And I'm sure he got exposed to some chemicals or other, you know, I'm sure that's what happened. And they knew what the disease was, but they had nothing really to treat it with. Now they do have something for that disease to treat it, but then they didn't have anything available. But I think my husband lived every day to the fullest, and he taught me that I need to do that too. So, and I try to do that. I try to make every day count, because you don't know how long you got.
That's so true.
So,
how was that experience for you? That's really set in.
Well, because none of my children live, you know, in Tri-Cities. Most of my family lives in Texas, and then the other part of my family lives in Kentucky and beyond Farragut. And so nobody was really right close by. And so it was really, really difficult. And he died. He died in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, one of my sons flew out there to be with me, because we had the horse trailer. And but we flew back, and we had 2 dogs out there, and so my son, he flew out and brought me back. But it was really, really difficult. It's so hard, and I know your mom's experiencing this right now. She learns it's no matter how strong you are, it's still difficult, and not having any family close by, I think it made it a little tougher. But you just gotta ask the Lord to help you, and He's going to help you. Mm-hmm. And of course, being a part of this church only for 2 years has dramatically helped me. Mm-hmm. I mean, the other churches were wonderful, but there's a spirit in celebration that is not matched by any other church I've ever been to. Mm-hmm. So it was tough learning to do things. He had, as I say, had 30 horses. And so the first thing I had to think about was dispersing some of those, getting down on those numbers, which I did. And I had a lot of help from a lot of good people in the breed, that would help me. And so I'm down to, like, say, 4 now. And they'll stay here until they pass, till they die. And they're all getting old. So them, I don't know. I hope I outlive them, but we'll see. The Lord has blessed me with good health. Mm-hmm. I'm physically strong and in good health. Mm-hmm. So I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. How long had you guys been married?
We had been married. Let's see, he was 73. So he was like 20. We got married when he was 20-something, 24, 20.
Around 50 years.
20, yeah, over 50 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a long and happy marriage. I mean, he was the love of my life. So, I was glad I had him for so long.
Mm-hmm. What's the best piece of marriage advice that you can give?
Well, I know my husband would always ask me, do you like this? When he bought a new truck, do you like it? What do you think? I love it. I don't know. I just tried to be, he was so in charge of so much stuff, and he was a decision maker, and he was strong, mm-hmm. and I liked being in the supporting cast. Mm-hmm. Now, some women today might not like that, but I think that's what made our marriage work. I was a supporting part, and he would always ask me, though, what do you think of this? And when we built this house, he never interfered with any of the decorating decisions I made. So
happy marriage.
Yes, a happy marriage. He was a good person. He was a good Christian man, good, hardworking, good man. Yeah, yes. It was a wonderful, wonderful life with him. Mm-hmm. I don't regret any of it. Mm-hmm. So,
what advice would you give to someone right now who is walking through the death of a spouse?
Ooh. Well, you have to be strong. There's no other word for it. You got to be strong and take charge of things and trust in the Lord. That's what I say every morning, that I trust in the Lord. And it's difficult. There's no getting around it. It's very, very difficult. And I had a lot of friends that supported me, and that was useful too. But I guess my advice is you got to trust in the Lord. I believe I have a purpose in life, and so this is part of it. We all have a purpose in life, so I hope that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm. What dreams do you still have left in your life that you want to fulfill?
Well, I've had so many dreams come true. As I say, I've been blessed by the Lord. I have great grandchildren now. So I was just out in Texas visiting my 13th great grandchild,
Oh my
year
goodness.
old birthday.
Oh, wow.
So I'm blessed. I have 12 grandchildren and 13 great grandchildren. So I am blessed. I have so many of, I don't know if I have any more dreams left. I think God has been good and generous and allowing me. I've had a lot of very serious, tough times in my life, but I've also had some of the greatest times in my life. So I'm thankful.
Mm-hmm. What's a piece of life advice that you would give someone?
Well, I think from what I learned from my husband has been so important to me. You've got to live every day. People put things off to tomorrow, and tomorrow may not come. And so I try to live every single day. I think about that when I wake up in the morning. Make this day count,
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what has kept me going, I think. Because there's so many there. You know what? Especially our church has so many interesting ministries in there for people, that are maybe a little down and they can find. I remember. I think it's been last year. I was Michelle was telling me that she gave tap dancing lessons. At church, or they had that ministry, and I did tap dancing when I was a child, and so I went to her tap dancing.
Oh.
And it was a lot of fun. And, there's so much out there to help people through hard times. There really is. Of course, a lot of it's got to come from within, and you got to trust in the Lord that He will help us. He'll help you. But that's what I look for. Life is short, and you've got to live every day to the fullest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that over the last few years of my life, that's been a realization that I've really had as I walked through my dad's diagnosis and death. Yeah. And he died when he was 60. So just life is really, really short.
It really is.
We are not guaranteed to live to retirement.
No.
We are not guaranteed to live past tomorrow. I'm not guaranteed to make it home today.
That's true.
There's so much that is just not guaranteed, and living life as if it's not forever.
I know.
And it's not long.
And we have to celebrate your father's life, what he did, and that's what I think that's important, to celebrate our family and our friends and what God has given us. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel really blessed. I came from very humble beginnings. And I never dreamed that I would have horses.
Mm-hmm. Let alone 30.
30. The milkman, when I was a child, had a Clydesdale pulling the cart, and he would park, in our cul-de-sac there. I never touched it or anything, but I would look at it a lot, a beautiful animal. But I never dreamed I would have horses and do the things that I do. As I say, I've been truly blessed. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think when you live a life with God, your life will never look how you expected it to be. No. But if you're truly living a relationship with God and surrender to Him, it's going to look so much better than you ever dreamed your life could look.
And I think my husband helped me see God a little clearer. I just say, he had a good relationship with the Lord, and I think he helped me see all that. I'd been to so many churches after he died, trying to find my place. It wasn't that those churches weren't great places of faith, but just to find my little niche. Mm-hmm. And as I say, when I walked through the doors in celebration, I said, I found it. I'm home. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I'm as happy as I can be where I am in life. Let me put it that way, yeah. there are different phases in your life, and I think I'm as happy as I can be where I am right now. So I'm thankful.
Well, Maureen, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and being interviewed. It's been a joy to hear your story and just the intriguing life you have had. It's been really beautiful to see how God has just blessed you throughout all of it.
I'm blessed. Truly I am. Thank you. God love you.
And thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to this. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And it would really help us out if you would give us a 5-star rating. That helps us get this podcast out to more people and reach more people with it. So if you could help us out in that way, it'd be greatly appreciated. But we hope to see you back here next week for another episode of the CCTri Podcast.